Hello everyone, എല്ലാവർക്കും നമസ്കാരം. Welcome to another live. Today we are going to discuss something about what is going on in Bangladesh. ബംഗ്ലാദേശിൽ നടക്കുന്ന കാര്യങ്ങളെക്കുറിച്ച് കുറച്ച് കാര്യങ്ങൾ നിങ്ങളുമായിട്ട് പങ്കുവെക്കാം എന്നാണ് വിചാരിക്കുന്നത്. നമുക്കറിയാം നമ്മുടെ നാട്ടിൽ ഇത് സംബന്ധിച്ചിട്ടുള്ള വിവരങ്ങൾ നമ്മൾ വിചാരിക്കുന്ന പോലെ പുറത്തേക്ക് വരുന്നില്ല. അപ്പോൾ അതുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നമുക്ക് അറിയാൻ കഴിയുന്നില്ല. അതുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ വലിയ തോതിലുള്ള സംശയങ്ങളും അതല്ലെങ്കിൽ അവിടെ നടക്കുന്നത് മുഴുവൻ തെറ്റാണ് എന്ന് പറയുന്ന രീതിയിലുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങളുമാണ് നമ്മൾ കാണുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ അതൊന്ന് ഓവർകം ചെയ്യാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ട്, അതിനെക്കുറിച്ച് കുറച്ച് യാഥാർത്ഥ്യങ്ങൾ അറിയാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് കുറേ നാളായിട്ട് നമ്മൾ വിചാരിക്കുന്നു ബംഗ്ലാദേശിൽ നിന്നുള്ള ആളുകളെ പങ്കെടുപ്പിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ അതിനെക്കുറിച്ച് കുറച്ച് കാര്യങ്ങൾ ചോദിച്ചറിയാമെന്നാണ് വിചാരിക്കുന്നത്. ഒരുപാട് ലിമിറ്റേഷൻസ് ഒക്കെ ഉണ്ട്, എന്നാൽ പോലും നമ്മളതൊന്ന് ശ്രമിക്കുകയാണ്. സോ ലെറ്റ്സ് ട്രൈ ഡൂയിങ് ദിസ്. സോ വി ഹാവ് എ വണ്ടർഫുൾ ഗസ്റ്റ് വിത്ത് us ടുഡേ, ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് എറീന. സോ യെസ്, വെൽക്കം എറീന.
Hi Arif, thanks for your invitation. It's really nice to have you here.
Yes, I think we are here for the second or third time, right?
I think second
this
time.
live.
Yes.
Second time, okay. So Erina, for just giving an intro, she's from Bangladesh and she's a particle physicist and working with the CERN Large Hadron Collider. So we had done a very vast, in detail discussion about all these activities and whatever things that she's doing and how she became an ex-Muslim and other things. So she's an ex-Muslim too, so and a free thinker. So we have a wonderful person with us today. So let's try ask her some things about Bangladesh and the situation which is prevailing over there. And yeah, let's straight away head into that. How about that?
Yeah, sure. I'm very thrilled to be here because it's been a long time, and also like I get to speak to so many people from both Bangladesh, India, and so many people who are watching us from different countries. So I'm here not only because Arif is one of my very good friends, and we are ex-Muslims trying to actually highlight some of the pressing issues in the region, but also because I think the instability going on in Bangladesh really needs to be more talked about, because a lot of propaganda about what is happening in Bangladesh is going on from all sides. And I personally feel that as educated people, as neutral free thinkers, we must come forward and challenge some of the propagandas, question some of the ongoing events, and shed light on the dark for people out there so that they can also educate themselves. So thanks for having me here, and if you have any specific questions, I would specifically like to talk about what really happened. It's a very complex, and you might have read about it on your news media. And just remember, much of this, what we read in the news media, it is bits and pieces of information coming from different perspectives. So there are many perspectives to what really happened. If you talk with an Awami League supporter, you will hear one version of the story. If you talk with one of the supporters of the uprising against Awami League, you will hear another side of the story. But what I am going to tell you is the story of the common people who are not necessarily Awami League or BNP or any specific political party, who just want to live and let live. So I would like to just talk on behalf of that. So we see that Bangladesh has been going through a lot of political unrest since last 3 months, since the collapse of the Hasina's government. And this unrest has opened a lot of questions in common people's mind. You know, it's not only Hindus, but Muslims and atheists and free thinkers. There are debates going on different things. For example, there are free thinkers who are defending the Awami League government, and there are free thinkers who are against that, but they're not backing the uprising either. So they want a secular, progressive government, but they are not finding the confidence in the interim government. And then we also have free thinkers and all sorts of people who are supporters of the interim government, and they have a very different outlook at what is going on.
Okay. So what I would like to do today with your presence is that instead of asking some specific question in the beginning, I'm just giving you a few minutes to discuss things which is already out and which you think that that's not enough, or which you think that there are a lot to be told about that. So could you please give an elaboration onto that first, and then we go on to specific questions?
Yeah. So
Okay.
one thing that should be made clear, not how the uprising happened, but why it succeeded. There might be many factors influencing it, but one factor that definitely was influencing the uprising was people wanted a change. Okay, people wanted a change to get democracy. People wanted to definitely get better justice system. People wanted an end to corruption, right? But then an uprising of that scale itself, as freethinkers, we know very well that these uprisings are not that simple. It's not like people just suddenly rise up and all of a sudden a government collapses. So we know there are lots of politics, geopolitics working in the background. But why this uprising became successful is because Bangladeshi people, most people wanted a change, an end to corruption. They wanted an end to all the uh, not only corruption but also like lack of freedom of expression. Okay, so they felt that they were not able to freely express themselves, and they
I
also
have a
wanted a
question.
change in the government. So this became like the centerpiece why during the uprising people of almost all the background, uh, most of them came together. As least you can see online that people of all kind of people came together and supported the uprising, many of whom actually backed down now. They no longer
Okay.
think it's a good idea. Yeah.
One question here is that uh, were these reasons which are cited for this uprising, especially the corruption and some other reasons, and also when you look at the recent student protests that were conducted, which led to the ousting of Hasina, do you think that they are legitimate reasons or were they cooked up?
We know for sure that the quota movement of the students, the common students, was hijacked later on. The quota movement started as a movement done by non-political common students. They had good intentions. Later on, this got hijacked. And by the way, it's not my words. It is in the words of the people in power now. Some of them, for example, Mahfouz, I don't know if you know about him. He's one in the interim government now. He personally acknowledged that they did use the quota movement to get rid of Hasina's government. So their goal was not to demand a change in the quota system, but to get rid of Hasina's government. So they made it clear after they gained the powers. It's not my words, it's in their word. They said it is a meticulously designed plan. So as a person who is observing all this, then this entire uprising, the success of it becomes questionable, isn't it? Because yes, people wanted a change, but then some other forces became a part of it, and they wanted to get rid of Hasina's government, no matter whether Hasina's government accepted the like the demands about the quota system or not. So at the end, actually, Hasina's government was ready to talk with students. They wanted to sit down. They wanted to solve it. They were trying to find a common ground. By then, even there were factions of the protesters. No matter what the government tried to do, they backed off and they didn't accept. They wanted to protest more. They did more. They went ahead, did more vandalization and so forth. So they were extremely violent back then. But what I'm saying here, why all these political forces, different forces, succeeded in overthrowing the League's government, if even quite a number of people in the population wanted a change. They wanted to to have a leadership that is voted by people, so like a healthy democracy. They wanted to have a judiciary system that can be held accountable, a government that can be held accountable. So most people wanted that. What happened after 5th August is a completely different thing. What people wanted, what different political forces did using people's emotions towards this, and then what
Okay.
actually happened when the regime collapsed. Yes.
They were not matching each other.
Uh, it seems like not. I see a lot of
Okay.
people who is questioning it, both free thinkers and common people, because people did not want a government or anybody in power who'd come back and act just like the previous government or even worse. They wanted
Okay.
security. They wanted the rule of law to be established. They wanted freedom of speech. They wanted a change
Okay.
the way the country was functioning. So that is why they felt that it was them who was standing up against the corruption. But in
Okay.
reality, if you think uh, a country like Bangladesh, where we have a lot of crime, we have had this kind of violent protests many times, even in the last 12, 15, 16 years. But did you ever see those making international headlines to the extent the July August uprising got? It's
Never.
like for a few months I was very busy with my research, so I was not that active in social media. I actually came back to social media the moment I came to know that Sheikh Hasina had to leave the country. So I was
Okay.
like shocked. I was like, what is going on? There must be something going on. And I come online, and at my surprise, previously there has been so many murders, so many problems. We had student protests like for better road security. We had protest for many other things. It never gained so much traction in the international media. But this uprising, this entire movement, Quota movement, from the middle of July till August, some magic happened. And this magic is what we are questioning now. What happened that it suddenly gained so much international attention? As it BBC, CNN, everybody
Everyone.
was talking about it, and everybody was trying to put forward the narrative the protesters were putting forward at the time, not the
Just move.
opposition. They were
Yeah.
not presenting a neutral, biasless information. They were presenting one side of the information. So the common people, most people who supported this, they might not be very happy right now, because many of them feel that the present situation is not giving them hope.
Okay. So when you say that the media is reporting only just one part or they are biased, and when you say all these things or whenever anyone says all these things, uh, they might sound that they are aligning with Hasina and Awami League and all. So in that case, what is the kind of name call that you would hear? Just like when we say something in our country, like you might be called as a Sankhi or a Hindutva person or someone like that. In that way, I'm just asking you. So when you say this, what is the kind of name call that you might experience in Bangladesh if you side with Hasina?
Yeah, you get tagged as the pro-fascist. You are a supporter of the
Fascist.
fascist. You are a supporter of something monstrous. Like the moment
Okay.
they tag you like that, you no longer have human rights. You no longer
Okay.
have right to live, to right to talk. It is legitimized to attack you, to vandalize your house, to come attack your family because you are a pro-fascist. You are so bad. So this politics of tagging is something many common people wanted an end to. People are tired of this extremely violent politics that whatever comes to power, whoever comes to power, somehow becomes the next authoritarian figure that they want to just suppress the opposition. And of course I don't want to go forward too much into details or like defend any
Got
political
it.
parties, because I'm like a private person talking as a private
Okay.
person here. But even there I would like to just hint at you all that when we talk about Awami League, a political party, it's not that easy for them to also just suddenly establish democracy, perfect democracy, because you need to understand that our political environment itself by nature is not healthy.
Okay.
So this idea of the opposition party respecting the ruling
The
parties,
other.
like ability to live, and this respect is lacking, you know. So right now we feel that this is the same situation with the situation right now, that now somehow it is okay if the Awami League supporters and leaders are targeted and assaulted. Somehow it is totally fine because they once supported or represented Awami League. But see how problematic that is, right? So we are back to square one. Nothing really then is changing. Like, where is the change that people actually wanted to see? People did not want to see this tag. And as a physicist, I like to look at these events not to support but to analyze, to understand where is it coming from, where do the people stand. You know, even I got accused to be a pro-fascist, because how dare you, you do not support the July uprising. Just because I do not directly support it, I do not support it because I question it. I'm very surprised that how is it possible in just 2.5 months such a thing was achieved, like in such a grand scale. So what kind of power is behind it? What kind of
Okay.
power made it happen? Is that power interested to actually establish a healthy democracy, freedom of speech for my people? You know. So.
Um, I would like to add something or to correct you on this, because you said that it's like going back to square one. I would say it's square zero, because there's no square. Because when you try to hunt down your political opponents like these, and you are expecting to nurture a democratic society like this, that's not gonna happen anytime, because that's not the way how democracies work. Because there will be political parties or differences in ideologies, and then they compete each other, and there is the freedom of people from going from one party to the another, and maybe coming back and forth multiple times, and all this happens in a democracy. And it's all about the differences of opinion, which thrives and which drives the democracy. But what you see in Bangladesh is that if you are in an opposition, and you as an opposition member, what you are trying to say, or what you are trying to do, is that the ruling party, they are seen as fascist, and they are seen as your enemies, and you are trying to kill them at the very first moment that you could do in any way. And even when that is happening, it's not square one, it is square zero. That's not how democracies work. So do you think that this way, in Bangladesh, anytime soon, will there be a democracy, true democracy, at least in the form that we see in India?
I doubt that. It's not possible to form a democracy and freedom of speech when the politics is so reactionary. Reactionary politics never brings anything positive. People have a right to choose the political party they want to vote, and they must not be called fascist or you know, this idea that somehow you voted a party and suddenly you are a pro-fascist, or all the leaders, all the supporters or members of that political party suddenly fascist. Yeah, okay, even if they're fascist, they have human rights under the constitution. It is not okay for a mob of violent people to storm people's houses, to target these leaders. They are human beings, they are citizens of Bangladesh, they are protected under the constitution. If anybody finds them guilty for corruption, for whatever, there is law, there is our justice system. They can file case, and that has to go through the judiciary system as per law. The mob or the interim government or anybody who supports the uprising does not have the right
Okay.
to justify that it is okay to, just
I,
hunt down or target and assault and bully people just because, they have a political opinion, and they side with the previous authoritarian government.
Okay, now I'm so glad and so happy that I asked you this question without having any idea that you are going to give this answer, because you know what happened? This is exactly something like you were schooling those people who are tagging all those people who speak the same for the BJP here. So we are against demonizing anyone, okay, demonizing and dehumanizing. So what happens then is that this will happen, what you're seeing in Bangladesh, when you see a person in the opposition, and if you tag them as the fascists or some people like that, and you dehumanize them constantly, and there comes a point when you won't find them give them a reason to live even. And that's what exactly is happening in Bangladesh right now. So you were literally schooling them. So thanks for that beautiful statement. I think this is a lesson for we Indians here to look at ourselves and decide what you are doing right now and whether it's right or wrong. Because this is exactly what we as free thinkers were constantly saying. And even I was called as a fascist and someone who is backing BJP and other blah blah. I don't care about that. Anyway, this is something very valid. And moving on, there comes two important aspects in what is happening over in Bangladesh. That is, one is this issues, that is the political instability and the corruption and all other things. Now everything is out of discussion, and what is more prominent now is an anti-India sentiment and a anti-Hindu sentiment. This is what we see in Bangladesh. So how come this transition occurred, and what's the reason behind this? And a simple question is this, that is, are all Bangladeshis against India and against Hindus? And why we see this scale of hatred against India and Hindus?
Yeah. This is a very nice question. Thank you. Actually, I would like to shed more light on this. I think people deserve to know. First of all, I will say this as somebody who understands how social media works, how the algorithm works, okay? So I can tell you this much, no matter which country you are in, either Europe, America, you are in India or Bangladesh, doesn't matter, Middle East. The social media you're looking at always provides you biased information. It is designed to pick stories that cause very strong sentiment in you. You will click it, and that is how they reach people. So there is this algorithm. It's very cleverly done, and it creates more division in people. So whenever you are approaching social media, be skeptical. Question yourself why you are seeing same kind of news again and again. It might be that your feed is full of a very specific narrative because maybe you clicked some link before and the algorithm is now feeding you just the one type of story. Secondly, what happens to the media? Okay, now we are common people. We are not in the government. No matter what happens, whether in Kerala of India or Sunamganj of Bangladesh, we know it through social media, through newspapers. What if the newspapers itself have bias? Who really runs them? Who really owns them? Who really funds them? Secondly, are the journalists really free to report? Are they feeling the safety to report? So what I here mean is that how much information we have as Bangladeshis also depend on what our media is bringing us, right? So sitting in Bangladesh, from my Bangladeshi friends, family, other free thinkers that I know in Bangladesh, they have reported to me that they see a lot of anti-India rhetoric almost everywhere. This is alarming. This is concerning because in India, sitting there, you are seeing more rhetoric like most Bangladeshis are anti-India. That's so strange because when I come across people, I see most people are very positive about India as a neighboring country. It's not like we hate India. I cannot say all people of Bangladesh love India because, we always have had this percentage of our population that were always like against our war in 1971. We call them Rajakar, right? So many of them during 1971, they even handed over our freedom fighters to the West Pakistani military because they did not want Pakistan to split and Bangladesh to be born. So we have had always this percentage of our population that were against the liberation war, against the birth of Bangladesh, and they have always had this anti-India rhetoric. Now the question you are asking, how is it possible that all of a sudden, after 5th of August, what happened that in all media outlets we see more and more these stories being promoted, that the most of the Bangladeshis are not positive about India. And this is the same question many of us Bangladeshis have. What is happening, really? Because have you noticed, did it come to the media? I don't know if you have noticed it. When India stopped giving visa to Bangladeshis, and in front of the High Commission, there was long line of people. So if people was so anti-India, they didn't want to do anything about with India, or why would they want to go, or do business, or we know that it's our neighboring country. We know that we need to keep like a good relation between the neighboring countries. So this rhetoric, I fear, is a rhetoric very specifically targeted to invoke negative emotions and use that negative emotions to do politics. So
Okay.
I personally think Bangladesh still has majority of the people, at least 60% of its population, who are not anti-India.
Okay. But why the rise in the attacks against Hindus, and especially we are seeing a spike in such discussions and the news coming out of Bangladesh, especially after the arrest of the ISKCON temple priest, Mr. Chinmoy Das, that priest from ISKCON temple. So we are seeing even more attacks over the Hindus and all. So why is it happening? What could be the reason why Hindus are getting attacked?
It's because Hindus have
Are they
always been
getting
a pawn
attacked?
of. They
Are
are
they getting
getting attacked.
attacked? Okay.
Hundreds of. There has been so far reported 3,000 attacks. So far, 3,000, according to the media itself. I'm
Okay.
like referring to the Bangladeshi media itself. So a month ago, it reported 2,000 attacks to Hindu households, businesses are being targeted. Now, one thing I want you, everybody, to understand, this is not something new. In Bangladeshi politics, since 1971, more or less, there has always been some sort of politics surrounding the minority population, specifically Hindus, because they happen to constitute the second largest minority. Yeah, the largest minority in
Yeah.
Bangladesh.
Close to
So,
8%.
exactly. So,
Yeah.
there has always been politics surrounding Hindus. I was born in the 90s, and I can tell you, since I could speak and understand a bit, since that time I have read in the newspaper. Whenever there was a change of government, whenever there was some kind of political turmoil, Hindus were always particularly targeted. And this has to be something to do with the radicals always need a villain. The radicals always need a villain. So for our radicals in Bangladesh, they have a villain, and that happens to be the largest minority community of Bangladesh. So it's very easy to target them. And then, of course, governments try to suppress these attacks. Governments try according to their own definition of trying. We common people are not really happy with this trying part of it, because we want a stop of that. We want to just live and let live. We want to just have a normal.
Just a
Do
second.
you see me or hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
I think I got blacked out a bit, right?
It's okay. It's okay now.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So what I was saying, that these attacks, they are particularly done by the radicals to I think this has a political purpose, very specifically political purpose, to provoke a response from the other side.
Okay.
And the radicals always need a villain, and in their case, it is our Hindus. So since 5th August, certain things happened. Before I go to the situation of the minority, maybe I should mention this, that there has been reports that high security prisons, uh, criminals from high security prisons. Thousands of them escaped, hundreds of them. And about 900 of the criminals were still not caught. So since 5th August, we now have criminals from high security prisons walking around free. Secondly, the interim government, after it took power, it did certain questionable things. For example, it started giving parole to some top level criminals. For example, the chief of Ansarullah Bangla team uh, was accused of murdering Rajiv Haidar, one of the atheist blogger, in 2013. And I think it was 2015 when Awami League government actually banned Ansarullah Bangla team. And later on, they changed their name. And this person was also released from high security prison. So now common people and also the political leaders are questioning why all of a sudden, right after the collapse of the previous government, interim government is like releasing these top level criminals in parole, in bail. Like, this is so absurd, because they are supposed to now focus on rebuilding the country, to build to rebuild the economy from all this harm that was done. But why are they interested to release these criminals? These questions, are being asked, and we are afraid that some of these criminals who escaped, even some of the prisons that got looted, many weapons that got looted, are now being used to attack the minority communities. And this is very concerning. Problematic part is that these 3,000 attacks, many complaints from Hindu community that they don't feel safe. It's not being taken seriously enough. That is our concern as common people. We don't feel it is taken seriously enough, because we see almost every week Hindu professors, Hindu teachers, and even recently Hindu sociologist Dr. Anupam Sen was forced to resign from his position, by just a mob of students. Somehow, now Bangladesh is somehow ruled by mobs. Like, a mob can just enter anywhere and just force sociologists,
Force.
educationalists, whoever can just target, and by some magic, all these people happen to be Hindus. So it's too good to be a coincidence, really. All these coincidences are really something we started to talk about, and this is not acceptable. And if I talk about Dr. Anupam Sen, he was not really that much active. I have personally never heard him like being an ally of the fascist government either. So what was the reason? Really, like, it's not okay. Even if he was like a supporter of Awami League, why would that be a problem? These are some of the very questionable things. Like, the minority community is not feeling safe now. From personal space, I did reach out to some of my Bangladeshi Hindu friends. They are afraid. They are afraid to speak. Because these targeted murders, targeted attacks have increased a lot. And somehow the law of the country, the interim government of the country, we don't know why, because the interim government is not openly talking about it. They are just trying to brush off everything, saying, no, our minorities are doing much better than before. Oh, no, most of them are propaganda. It doesn't work, because we live in that country. We have our loved ones, we have our friends, we know what is happening. So even if the media does not publish it, for example, the attack happened in Sunamganj, attack happened in a village under Thana Turag in Dhaka. Very recently, media did not even cover these attacks on Hindu communities. So even if they were not covered, we know, because we are from that country, we know. So people know, and it is really heartbreaking why these things are not still taken seriously. So yes, this is a concern right now in Bangladesh.
Okay. So, do you also say, or do you also have this view that these kind of forced resignations that is happening over there, or targeting Hindus, these were not just something that propped up just after this event or the recent events, or were they happening even in the past, these kind of events, maybe once in a while.
We have seen during when Sheikh Hasina was in power, it did happen, but not to this extent. Now the frequency is very high. So during Sheikh Hasina's government, I remember some Hindu teachers came under attack, but they were dealt with. So they were dealt with somehow. I do not
So
remember
Hasina took
the.
action against them. That's what you're
At least
saying.
that is what it appeared to be. Yeah. So
Okay.
they were not really like happening every other day. But right now, what we are witnessing
No
is
action.
almost every other day. There is like the frequency is somehow very high, and I have so many Hindu friends who, no matter how the situation is in Bangladesh, never wanted to leave Bangladesh because they always told me, Erin, this is my grandfather's land. This is where my ancestors are from. Where would I go? This is my land. Even some of those friends are now telling me that maybe we have to move. So this is deeply concerning as a citizen of Bangladesh, as somebody who grew up in areas. I can talk about the area where I grew up. For example, we had Hindus
Please
living
go on.
there, and their numbers started falling. Really, you can barely find Hindu families in those areas anymore. So, what magic really happened that Hindu citizens of our country no longer feel safe? And these are real questions. We want to trust interim government. We want to trust that the government will bring something good, but we can only trust when we see that in action. We see that the law and order is being applied. We see that the minority is able to speak. Even if it is criticism of the interim government, there should be safety and security. People, even the critic, must feel safety and security, and that is only when we can say that the democracy is working, right?
So, when it comes to Bangladesh, I have this intriguing doubt in me. That is, we used to say in India that the minority communalism is triggering majority communalism in our country. That's what we always say here. But when it comes to Bangladesh, I'm failing to see a minority communalism operating over there. That is by the minority, that is the Hindus, organizing and creating some kind of issues in the name of religion or in the name of their communal angles, and then causing the Islamic factions or the other majority, that is the Muslims over there, to form a majority communal activity or something that is against this minority communalism. We are not seeing that in Bangladesh. So how do you see this? So is it wrong to say that minority majority communism, or is it just exactly like Islamic communalism leads to Hindu communalism? Will that be the correct explanation or the expression?
Well, as far my observation goes, definitely they feed each other. However, in Bangladesh, I don't think since 1971 there has ever been the so-called Hindu party. We don't have such a political party. Awami League
Hindu League.
was quite popular as
You don't have a
something
Hindu
like
League
progressive. Yeah, we don't have such a thing.
like
But
a Muslim League.
recently, this some radical political force in Bangladesh is trying to establish this idea that somehow some Hindu groups are radicals and they are somehow threat to us and stuff like that. But no, we don't see them really gathering, protesting like our radicals do even now. And we don't see them coming to mainstream politics either. But however, one thing I would like to mention here, this is very concerning, by the way, that since these thousands of attacks on Hindu community happened, the Sanatan Jagaran Manch,
Jagran Manch, yeah.
Jagaran Manch, yes, was formed, and I think I have seen in news that hundreds of thousands Hindus in Chittagong, they came down on the street to protest and to present their demands for safety, security, and to urge the government. Also, they were also maybe presenting some demands they had to the interim government. And then later on, nowadays we see that some of the members of this Sanatan Jagaran Manch are being targeted.
Oh.
And this is what it appears, because again, all of this information we know from the media. We are, like, so all of a sudden this news comes out a few days ago. Pranto Dash, a member of this Sanatana Jagaran Manch, he was not at home most likely, and his mother was murdered and his house was robbed. And
Okay.
so this is very concerning, because even if Hindus wanted to come together, form a movement to demand their, you know, to demand something from the government, their safety, security, as a citizen of Bangladesh, can we really conclude that they're free to do so? When we see randomly some of the organizers, some of the members are just randomly targeted and randomly their houses are vandalized. I think this is something people will not really believe, even if those in power pretend like, no, this is just random, this was done because he was a league supporter. We don't really feel convinced by those kind of logic anymore, really.
Okay. So this is something which even as we Indians should take a lesson from. So we have to be careful about the identity politics. Uh,
Yes.
okay. So and even then, the Hindus over there, they were having a sizable representation in the parliament. Was it like that?
Uh, I think there is this. Hindus do have. I think how to explain it in English. Like, they do have their representation, and the problem is that we see a lot of events happening parallelly, but they don't match with each other. In one hand, we see members of Sanatana Jagaran Manch some of them are being targeted, their families are being targeted if they're not home, or some of them are uh, receiving, like, maybe threats. That's what they say. That's what they're saying, that they're receiving threats. On the other hand, some other representatives of the Hindu community are saying that they're having the best life right now. They are living much better than before. So they don't really go well together. And we are questioning that are they under intimidation? Are they actually free? Because, okay, fine, you're doing really well, but I mean, come on, 3,000 attacks. It's just so bizarre. Like, how is it possible that if you are a representative of your community, how can you say that no, such a thing is not happening, these are just communal things, or some kind of vandalism happened, please don't make it a communal issue. But we know it is a communal issue. That's the problem. We know it. and and
Yeah.
and this is what also sparks this question: are these leaders, are these representatives, are actually free to express themselves?
Okay. So you doubt that? For
I doubt. Yes.
okay. I'm not
If
digging
this
more deeper
happened
into that.
with ex-Muslims, I will definitely not say that ex-Muslims are living the best life unless somehow something was wrong. This is what I find very strange, because okay, if this was very random issue, like randomly few people got attacked, then you could excuse. Yes, randomly,
But this is not like this.
criminal activities happen. Every country has criminals. Every country has bad people,
Yeah,
but
yeah. This
not
is not.
3,000
These are
attacks.
not bad people. These are bad
No, we are
ideologies
not talking
causing.
about random bad people just targeting very specific people to get rid of them from their positions. Very specific villages with Hindu majority being targeted. Those are targeted. Those are communal in nature for sure.
Okay. I'm just going lighter on this because I just don't want to cause more trouble to you as well. That's why I'm going this way. So another aspect of this is something related to the solution part. Okay, so we are seeing a lot of issues and a lot of things. So one thing you already mentioned, and I just wanted to make sure that do you think there will come a day when the media will report whatever things that is happening in Bangladesh as it is? Do you think that will happen anytime soon? That any reporting of the exact events to get an international
Unfortunately,
support?
I fear for the safety of journalists in Bangladesh. Truly, I do. There
Okay.
has been several cases that journalists after 5th August received these random accusations, and they're being sent to
And
prison,
we
and they're, yeah.
yeah,
And
and I
several
read a
of
news that
the, for
almost
example,
yeah,
Proton
almost
Alo
200.
and other news outlets, their offices were uh, like under attack,
Okay.
so right now the press freedom index in Bangladesh is doing really poorly. I wouldn't say that
Okay.
was doing very good ever in our country, but right now I do not think
Even
the
bad.
Bangladeshi media has the freedom, or the journalists have the freedom to critically, without threat or intimidation, to actually
Is it just about
present
the
news.
press freedom, or what about the lawyers' freedom? Because we are hearing something about the Chinmay Krishnadas, that who got arrested as the ISKCON priest. He's not able to represent. Any lawyer is ready to represent him because of fear of death
Yeah, this
and
is so
attack.
strange,
And
right?
we
Because we know
yeah.
that
So
lawyers will, you will always find a lawyer
yeah.
to
So
represent
my
you.
question
Yeah.
is, did really happen something like that? Was that a
No, we
reality?
actually saw in the news that some of the lawyers who were interested to represent him was assaulted.
Okay.
So so
So
so
that
then
happened.
how can we say that any no lawyer is interested? Maybe the lawyers are not really free to. Everybody loves
Okay.
their life. And this is the reason why more and more people, common people, who even were critical during the time of league, are now critical about the interim government. So if the interim government want to build trust, build authenticity, I think if they have the willingness, they can definitely achieve it. We have a rule of law, we have a constitution that guarantees equality of all the citizens. It's not that
Do you
easy to
really have
apply,
that?
it's not that difficult to apply it. We have a constitution, right? So it
Okay.
guarantees that the Hindus, the Christians, Muslims, everybody should have protection and
Okay, but
equal rights.
so theoretically it's there, but in practical it's not there. That's what we
No,
see here.
yes.
Okay, so do you think that
Theoretically, it's very
yeah.
perfect. Yes.
So do you think that that will ever happen, that the justice will be prevailing by these kind
It
of
actually
actions?
depends on people. I think one thing we must understand about democracy: it does not work unless majority people understand their responsibility in a democratic system. So democracy is always shaped by the common people, by people
Yeah.
like you and me. So holding leaders accountable is our job. We will not find magically a good leader unless we
Right.
know how to hold leaders accountable. It's very important. So it would never happen in the world. It never happened with any nation in the world that anybody could just come and give you a healthy democracy. It never happens. It is always the responsibility of the common people to hold their leaders accountable, to stand up for justice. So, right now, the question is whether there will be an unity among common people of Bangladesh to hold, you know, protests, demonstrations, and come together, because right now I feel the country is still not united, no matter what anybody tries to explain me, because that is not what I see. I see that people
Okay.
are still divided. So this common understanding has to be there, that no matter which political party we support, no matter who we are, what religion we have, we want a Bangladesh where the leaders, the government, has to be accountable to the people. So when
Okay.
this understanding will come forward, I believe it is possible to establish the rule of law and also democracy in a country like Bangladesh. But for that, we need people who understand how democracy functions.
Okay. So you confirm that the people are already divided over something.
They are divided, definitely.
Okay. So will that division remain in the domain of the people, or will that will again cause a division of the country itself, or that I mean, will Bangladesh will get divided into two separate countries? Do you think that way, or
This
many
is
numbers?
something the time will tell, because right now, people make decisions based on, as I said, what kind of information we are exposed to. Bangladeshi people right now, cannot trust the information they're being exposed to. Okay, so I have talked to countless people. They cannot trust the media. They cannot trust still the interim government. They cannot even trust the previous government. They don't know who to support. So at some point, I believe through this instability, would there be a time when most people find that we have something in common, regardless of all our differences, that we want leadership that is accountable. And that is only when it is possible for a change. Right now, I feel not only common people, but also the elites and the politicians, they're very much divided. Although some anti-league
Okay.
people on the anti-league side tried to convince me, no, they see a magical unity. I don't see any magical unity. I see people are actually questioning, and people are not able to still trust, and people are not able to come to this agreement that they find this confidence that the interim government will be able to hold this together. But this is something the time will tell. Yeah.
Okay, so we can expect a division in Bangladesh for another country in the near future.
Well, we cannot completely rule it off. I mean, what happened to Syria,
Okay, got it,
you
got
can
it.
see that, very, very recently, like, or any country, really. It's like the more divided people are, the more
yeah.
politically it is possible for this kind of to divide and rule. I would like to mention this, what happened to our Indian subcontinent, like how religion was used to create three separate countries, two separate
Yeah.
countries first, India and Pakistan, and then of course Bangladesh separated. So these politics, to believe that politics ended will be
But you
wrong.
must remember that division was caused by the Islamist faction, not by the Hindus. That's the rule
Yeah,
number one
Islamists
that
had a
we should
very
remember.
big role.
Yeah.
Yes, the pan-Islamists specifically. Yes, they
Okay.
had a big
So
role, and also the outside force had a big role.
more than
So
that, the
yeah,
Islamists, they were the people who were always dreaming about having a separate country for the Muslims and all such things. And finally, they got it two pieces, and then they fought each other. And see, we never fought within India. We have never had an instance where Hindus fighting each other. We don't see that. But just after the partition of India, within Pakistan, we were seeing a fight, and one part of Pakistan was killing the people of another part of Pakistan. How can you justify that? That's something that was always shocking me as a person. Like, that was not right. Okay, so the whole idea for which Pakistan was made or was brought into place was totally misplaced, or that was not right. That's something
yeah.
that I got as a realization. So
Creating a country out of religion alone is a very bad decision, because then how do you really run a country in this modern era with a religion? It's not possible. And this is
okay,
why we see Pakistan is really failing in so many things. Like, I don't really think Pakistani people deserve that. Pakistani people deserve much better. But
but
it's really sad that the country itself was created based on religion. So even if they want to reform it, in what way will they really reform it? Because that is the core idea of their constitution. This is where Bangladesh had a chance, because our ancestors gave their life, sacrificed a lot. And even our ally back then, India lost lots of officers for our war, and through a lot of sacrifice, we finally got a constitution that tried to separate the religion from the state. It tried. Of course, later on,
but
the constitution itself was again
okay,
altered slightly, and I have talked about it maybe in the previous talk also. Like, right now, our constitution is so strange that the state religion is Islam, but then it claims to be secular. This is like completely
hot
opposite to each other. You cannot have
hot ice cream.
secularism when your
Yeah, it's like
state
hot ice
religion,
cream.
religion is Islam, yeah, or any religion at all.
Yeah.
So you see, the problem with our country is more or less that our politics itself is somehow communal in nature. This is why it feeds each other. it existed since the British era. It started somewhat there, and then that fuel is still going on, and some of this politics still exists in our country, in Bangladesh. That this is why the Hindus are attacked again and again. So it has the political nature in it. Yeah.
Okay. So now, coming to a conclusion, I just wanted to ask you, what could be the role India would be playing in this to help Bangladesh surmount this issue, this, what do you say, this difficult situation? What do you think India should do?
I feel India should remain diplomatic. I
Okay.
think India should let Bangladesh and Bangladeshi people to decide what kind of leadership they want to choose. I think it will be wise of India to stay out of it. Personally, I think also because somehow the radicals of our country always want to show India as a
Aggressor.
nation against us. Yes. So if India tries to intervene, it will be always be seen as something like, oh, look, they
Proving
want to make
themselves.
us their, something like subordinate or something. So I feel India as a nation has democracy. India has talented people. India has good economy. India has no reason to well, India has reason. Yes, we have shared border, of course. I
Yeah.
understand the security concern of India, really, but I feel like right now the best decision for India will be to just let the Bangladeshi people shape this government, and also to let this government, shape itself. It has been only 3 months, and it is yet to see at what direction the government goes, and how people can influence this process. So I personally also feel that people like you and me should really also encourage people to think and understand that the anti-India or anti-Bangladesh or this kind of rhetorics we must question,
Okay.
because suddenly it's not possible that 100 million something people hate India.
Yeah.
It's not possible. So we are neighbors. We have more than just a border shared. We have our shared culture. We come from shared history. We have a lot of similarities. We share border, and we need each other. In the region, to have our sovereignty. So it's very important that we have this diplomatic ties. So we have to encourage leadership of our countries from Bangladesh and also from India to keep this diplomatic tie, and to
Intact.
try find a solution instead of
Yeah.
going
So
towards an
now,
escalation, let's say. Yeah.
yeah, I think that's truly valid and something that is, I would say, the wise answer one could give. Okay, thank you so much for that. And
Thank
and as a final question, we know what a Hindu living in Bangladesh would be thinking today, and one of their dreams would be to move to India or maybe live here or come to India, and maybe that could be a dream for them. And we understand that, and we even have some issues in India for letting these people come to India and to have a process that is expedited to have their citizenship accepted in India in a fast-paced manner. So forgetting about that for a moment, and I'm asking you, or I'm giving, if Indian government give a chance for the Muslim living in Bangladesh, a peace-loving Muslim living in Bangladesh right now, a choice for a free citizenship in India or to live in Bangladesh, do you think that he would opt for India to live as a Muslim in India?
I don't know. I think it would be wrong for me to assume how secular
They would think.
Muslims in Bangladesh feel like. I can tell you this much: whether Muslims or Hindus or Christians, people love their land. Nobody want to leave their home uh, without a reason. It's because we all love the
We have
home
a
we
reason
grow
here.
up.
Yeah, we have a
Yes, we
reason here
have
because we
ties.
have
Yes, so
unrest,
absolutely.
unending unrest.
Yes, and so often when people leave, they have reasons to leave. And I agree there is definitely problem with extremists in Islam, and that's all around the world. But we always have to remember that even as ex-Muslims, we do say this, that the extremists in our community, they're the minority. They do not represent us majority. It's a fact. And
But who
actually,
cares?
yes, but they are extremely violent, and they are,
Yeah.
you know, they can do taqiyya as well. So
You
they
are
lie
a
a
you
lot.
are a particle physicist, and you know how the atom bombs work.
Yeah.
So you don't need kilos of uranium or some this radioactive materials to have a nuclear
Yes.
reaction.
Yes. Now the
So
war actually changed. The way countries engage in war now has changed completely. So it's no longer with the sword and a horse. Nobody attacks each other with sword and
okay,
horse. So
I
many
can,
things
yeah,
are
I can give a
psychological.
different perspective of this question. That is, me
Mhm.
being a Muslim who was born into a Muslim family and living as a Muslim, and now obviously being an ex-Muslim, I would say this.
Mhm.
Uh, if I'm given a chance to
Mhm.
live in India right now, and I would say living as a Muslim in India is super safe. There's
Mhm.
no threats like what we see in our neighboring countries. Like, even, if simply put, you can go to a masjid for your Friday prayers and you can come back and have your lunch safely in India. There's no such a guarantee if you are in Pakistan. You don't have such a guarantee if you live in Afghanistan. You don't have such a guarantee very soon in Bangladesh. That's what we are going to see there, and we are already seeing in other countries, and we are hearing about such things every now and then. So,
Yeah.
when you give a comparison between all these countries and
Mhm.
India, for a Muslim, I would
Mhm.
say this is far. I'm not just boasting something like that, but for a Muslim facing all these things and having common problems of rise of extremism and terrorism causing problems in that country and affecting the lives of the peace-loving Muslims and endangering their life and being called as extremists even though they are peaceful. So in that myriad of problem, we have this question here, or we have this
Yeah.
a puzzle, and that's the reason why I raised this question. So maybe I just wanted to ask you as well, because you are from such a country where we
Like
are
I
seeing the
lived
rise
in
of
India
extremism.
for 3 years, and I was still somewhat like not religious. I was by the time I was in India to study my undergrad, I think I was already quite secular, so I was not that religious. But I still called myself a Muslim at the time, and I used to pray sometimes. But I was very liberal minded, and I had many Hindu friends, Christian friends, and also Muslim friends. And I can tell you that India as a country, I personally felt very safe to live for during the 3 years. Nobody has ever tried to force me to do anything, and people were very respectful towards. And also because I was very personally as a person, I was very liberal minded to other people as well. So perhaps I never had an incident where I felt as a Muslim back then that I was being discriminated.
No one
I
reminded
just
that you are a Muslim.
Yes, and I remember one day there was like I went to sublet and flat in a Hindu apartment, and the owner, he was hesitating to open his alcohol the bottle, and he was like, "Would you mind if I pour myself a drink?" I was like, "Well, it's haram for me, but not for you, so of course you can drink. Why would I mind?" And he was very surprised. He was like, "Oh, I thought you will not like
Which
it
was that
because
city?
in Bangalore." So,
Bangalore.
so,
Okay.
so
Oh.
yeah, yes. So, we had pretty nice. I was drinking a non-alcoholic drink, and he was drinking alcoholic drink. It's just that the concept of respect. And another thing I would like to mention, maybe since you questioned this one, Bangladeshi Muslims are not necessarily safe in the hands of radicals either. Radicals,
Yeah.
they don't like anybody but themselves. Like,
That's why I
uh,
asked about the Muslims in particular, because
yes,
we know what happens to a Hindu, but my concern is about the peaceful Muslims who they wish to have a life which is totally safe and peaceful and with full of celebrations and colorful life, but they are not let to live like that by the radicals. It's not by any other people like the Hindu goons over there. You don't have such a thing there, but
No,
still they are forced to live like that. Who are making their lives miserable? It's the
but this is an
Islamic terrorists.
interesting concept. Perhaps we can have like a survey how Bangladeshi
Yeah,
secular Muslims
you
feel
must
with
have, I
this
think.
record. That would be an interesting insight, though, because recently I came across some kind of survey they did. I don't know on what ground they did that, how they picked the sample. But they said 40% people in Bangladesh are anti-India and 53 or something percent are pro-India or they don't hate India. And that's so strange because they did not make it very clear how they picked the sample
Sampling.
size, what kind of people, it's a bias, you know. So if there is a study, if there is a poll, the survey analysis is only valid when it is a scientific survey. That they have to be very clear how the sample size is being chosen, how much, how the what is the distribution of respondents, you know. And there was also like this news recently. Was it how safe are Hindus in Bangladesh? And most of the responders were Muslims. This is so strange. Like you are the majority, and you are
They
talking
are
on behalf
speaking.
of the minority. How they are doing it is it
Okay.
is it is unfair, really, to say the least. So yeah, that kind of poll we do come across, but it would be very interesting to have like a proper poll conducted. I would be very interested to actually see because I am confident even the religious Muslims I have personally talked with, you know, they do not have personal anything against India. It's like, well, I'm a Bangladeshi. Of course, I love my country, but why would I hate India? I
Yeah.
mean, we may have problems, and then will come across. Our leadership will try to solve it using diplomacy. And what is the specific reason for me to hate them? So these rhetorics, anti-India rhetorics, are, I think, personally, these are particularly the propagandists, the radical propagandists who are using their platform, fund, to propagate it, you know, so that this anonymity can escalate, and both countries will lose a lot if we have further escalation. And this is why I encourage free thinkers and also people who are critical thinkers to question this and encourage people to think.
But I don't think that would happen because you know how the the ultra wokes among the free thinkers are causing a
Oh,
hurdle.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you think that they will let you do all this?
Yeah, the problem with them is their intention might not be bad, but their political insight is not good. You know,
Yeah.
you need to have
This
political insight to make
see
political
what we
decisions.
are
So they
doing
want
here.
to build an utopia that is not possible. So they have a model, it simply doesn't work. And then they keep trying, like an
Yeah.
addicted person. They keep trying because they just hope somehow it will work, you know.
And it
I have
wouldn't.
talked personally with woke people, and some of them may even have very black and white understanding how the universe works, how politics works, how human psychology works. They always try to put things into boxes. That is
Yeah.
not how politics works. Politics is very complex, human psychology is complex, you know. So when we talk about these things, the first idea is to understand the chaos of the topic we are talking about, to understand the chaos. Once you understand the chaos, you will understand why people take different positions. And the better you understand it, these radicals will eventually lose because the radicals feed on our lack of political insight. They hijack our brain, they convince us the world is black and white, and you must listen to them because they're the only one who know what is happening.
Yeah. Okay, so I think this makes a circle, and that was totally amazing elaboration from your part. Like so much insights were delivered, and I think this will make people rethink or to dig deeper into the things that is happening in Bangladesh and to have their eyes fixed on Bangladesh till they get a clear picture and to speak for them, to speak for all the people who are suffering there, especially the Hindus and the minorities and all such things. And I was just about to add something on to what you were saying, that is how to handle these works, because this frame of we two sitting here and discussing these things, this is giving a good lesson to the people in India. That's what I was thinking all the way. That is like um, the fact that we delivered a few minutes ago. That is about the dehumanizing trait that we employ against the opposition, and to make them appear like some demons, and leading them to violence and to complete chaos, and there won't be a homecoming after that. So I don't know how people are missing this. This is very important, and we are seeing this in display in Bangladesh, and I wish people learn a lesson from this to stop this, because what is happening in Bangladesh, in India, we are calling for that. That's what we see here, or I see here. The calling and the what do you say, the dog whistling. That is what is happening here right now. So if this escalates, this can culminate in what is happening in Bangladesh. This is what I see, or
I
I
totally agree.
foresee. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yes, yes.
so I think, yeah, this could be something, an eye opener for all the people here. So,
Let's
thank you
just
so much,
hope that
Arena.
our leadership also has this common ground and they can achieve it,
Yeah,
because we are just common people. It's them who has to learn to sit together and talk. And
yeah,
also we can expect at least this much of honesty from our leadership,
right.
it's
Do you
to do
have
this much
anything
for
to
the
add
people.
as a conclusion?
Well, as a conclusion, I would like to inspire no matter who is watching this to please be critical of what you read, what you watch, and what kind of narrative you are exposed to. And it's always important for you to cross check many different platforms, different sources, to figure out where the news is coming from. And thirdly, as Arif has also mentioned, that whenever trying to understand politics, specifically the communal nature of politics, it fits each other. So in one hand we are shown one side of the picture, and then you are shown another side of the picture, and if we do not communicate, that escalates to violence. And I personally feel uh, in this era it makes no sense for two countries, neighboring countries, to get into such silly escalations, while we have so many common space to talk about it and resolve it. So if there are problems, I want the common people of both countries to stand up and demand the leadership to go into dialogue,
Yeah,
to go to
right.
diplomatic dialogue instead of escalation, instead of threats, instead of intimidation. I hope many of you would agree with me from both Bangladesh and India that we want our leadership to talk and go to a diplomatic approach. And always remember, democracy is people's choice. It's always the majority people's choice. So if you want democracy, if you want freedom of speech, if you want secularism, you must be proactive as a citizen of the country to uphold those values. They will never be brought to you for free. And secularism does not come for free. You must stand up, speak up. Secularism is only possible when you speak up against any power trying to implement a religious state. Freedom of speech is only possible when you stand up for the right of the person you don't like hearing from. There are people, I feel their comments or insight is so strange, but I would still stand up for their right to speak. Similarly, for politics, for healthy democracy, it's important that us common citizens are aware that there will be different political parties on the political spectrum. There will be right, left, there will be center, center left, center right, and to dehumanize, platform, censorship never works. It
Translations.
backfires. It pushes the political parties to go extreme, and it never brings anything good for common people like us. And thanks to Arif for this wonderful
Yeah.
opportunity. For it was very nice to talk to you.
Yes. That's so
Yes.
nice for you to come here, and I hope we should do a second part or maybe a third part to this as the things evolve in Bangladesh. And I think you would be the right person to discuss on this because you
Thanks
are
a
so
lot. I'll
crisp
be
and
very
to
happy.
the point and too much clear about whatever things
Thanks.
that you say. So it's easy for all of us to understand the matter in the exact way. So. Uh, Thank you so much for joining with us today. So we'll see you in the next very soon. And
Thank
peace
you.
for your people. Okay. Take care. Yeah. സോ അപ്പോൾ അതായിരുന്നു നമ്മളുടെ ഇന്നത്തെ ചർച്ച. നിങ്ങൾ കേട്ടു, കുറേ കാര്യങ്ങൾ നമുക്ക് ചോദിക്കാൻ പറ്റാത്ത കുറേ വിഷയങ്ങളുണ്ട്. അത് അങ്ങനെ പറഞ്ഞതുകൊണ്ടും കൂടിയാണ് നമുക്ക് ചോദിക്കാത്തത്. കാരണം സെക്യൂരിറ്റി ഇഷ്യൂസാണ്. അപ്പോൾ അത് പേഴ്സണലി നമുക്ക് ചോദിക്കാവുന്ന കാര്യങ്ങളായിട്ടാണ് അത് നമ്മൾ കാണുന്നത്. അത് അവരുടെയും ജീവനെ തന്നെ ബാധിക്കുന്ന രീതിയിലാണ് നിൽക്കുന്നത്. അത്രയ്ക്ക് സമാധാനമാണ് ആ രാജ്യത്ത് അരങ്ങേറിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ അതുകൊണ്ട് പല കാര്യങ്ങളും നമ്മൾ അങ്ങനെ ചോദിച്ചിട്ടില്ല. അത് മനഃപൂർവ്വം തന്നെയാണെന്നാണ് ഈ പറഞ്ഞു വെക്കുന്നത്. നിങ്ങൾക്ക് തോന്നിയിട്ടുണ്ടാവും എന്തുകൊണ്ടാണ് അതിനെക്കുറിച്ച് ചോദിക്കാത്തത്, ഇതിനെക്കുറിച്ച് ചോദിക്കാത്തതെന്നുള്ള പല കാര്യങ്ങളും നമ്മൾ മനസ്സിൽ വന്നിട്ട് ഒഴിവാക്കിയതാണ്. അപ്പോൾ അത് ഒരു വിഷയമുണ്ട്. അതായത് ചോദിക്കാവുന്നതെല്ലാം ചോദിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട് എന്നതാണ് ഈ പറഞ്ഞതിൻ്റെ അർത്ഥം. ഇതിനപ്പുറത്തേക്ക് ചോദിക്കാനുള്ളൊരു ലിമിറ്റേഷൻ ഇവിടെ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. അതാണ് തുടക്കത്തിലേ പറഞ്ഞത്. എന്തായാലും നിങ്ങൾക്ക് അറിയാവുന്ന കാര്യങ്ങളും നിങ്ങൾക്കുള്ള സംശയങ്ങളൊക്കെ കമൻറ്റിൽ നിങ്ങൾ രേഖപ്പെടുത്താം. നമുക്ക് കൂടുതൽ ഡിസ്കഷൻസ് അവിടെ അറിയുന്ന ആളുകളും അല്ലാതെ നമ്മളുടെ ഇടയിലുള്ള ആളുകൾക്ക് അത് അങ്ങോട്ടും ഇങ്ങോട്ടും ഷെയർ ചെയ്യാവുന്നതിന് തടസ്സമൊന്നുമില്ല. കാരണം നമ്മൾ ജീവിക്കുന്ന ഇന്ത്യയിലാണ്. അതാണ് നമ്മളുടെ ഒരു വ്യത്യാസം എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ ഒന്ന് ആലോചിക്കുക, ഇവിടെ ഇന്ന് നടന്ന ചർച്ചയിൽ ഉണ്ടായിട്ടുള്ള ഒന്ന് രണ്ട് കാര്യങ്ങൾ വളരെ പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട കാര്യങ്ങളാണ്. അതായത് നമ്മളിവിടെ പറയാറുണ്ട്, ഈ ഇവിടുത്തെ കോൺഗ്രസ്സുകാരും രാഹുൽ ഗാന്ധിയൊക്കെ നിരന്തരം പറഞ്ഞുകൊണ്ട് നടക്കുന്ന കാര്യം. ഇപ്പോൾ ഈവൻ US ഇലക്ഷനിൽ പോലും നമ്മൾ കേട്ടതാണ്, ട്രംപ് വന്നു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ പിന്നെ ഡെമോക്രസി ഇല്ല, മരിച്ചു, ചത്തു എന്നൊക്കെ പറയുന്ന രീതിയിലേക്ക് പറയുന്ന കാര്യങ്ങൾ പറഞ്ഞ്, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷൻ മാറ്റും, തിരുത്തും. ഇത് പറഞ്ഞു വെക്കുന്നത് ഒരു ഇവിടെ എറിൻ സംസാരിച്ചപ്പോഴും പറഞ്ഞൊരു കാര്യം നിങ്ങൾ ശ്രദ്ധിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ടാവും. ഒപ്പോസിഷൻ ഉണ്ടാവും. അത് ഡെമോക്രസിയിൽ അത് അതിൻ്റെ ഒരു ക്യാരക്ടറിസ്റ്റിക്കാണ്. ഒപ്പോസിഷൻ ഉണ്ടാകും. ഒപ്പോസിഷനാണത്, അത് എനിമിയല്ല എന്നുള്ളതാണ് ഒന്നാമത്തെ ഒരു കാര്യം. ബംഗ്ലാദേശിൽ സംഭവിച്ചെന്താണെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഒപ്പോസിഷൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്നതിനെ എനിമിയായിട്ട് കാണുന്നു. അതിൻ്റെ ഭാഗമായിക്കൊണ്ട് അവരെ താഴെ ഇറക്കാൻ പറ്റാതെ വരുന്ന ഒരു ഘട്ടം വന്നാൽ ഇലക്ഷനിൽ തോൽപ്പിക്കാൻ പറ്റുന്നില്ല. എന്തു ചെയ്യും? കാരണം അവർ വെക്കുന്ന കാര്യങ്ങൾ അതിനോട് കൺവിൻസിങ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ആളുകൾ വോട്ട് ചെയ്യുന്നു, ജയിപ്പിക്കുന്നു. കാരണം അവിടെ ഒരു ഫെയർ ഇലക്ഷൻ നടക്കുന്നുണ്ടല്ലോ ഇന്ത്യയിൽ. ഏതായാലും അതിന് നിങ്ങൾക്ക് തോൽപ്പിക്കാൻ പറ്റാതെ വരുമ്പോൾ ഇലക്ഷൻ വോട്ടിംഗ് മെഷീനെ കുറ്റം പറയാന്നുള്ളതാണ് നമ്മളുടെ നാട്ടിൽ നടക്കുന്ന ആൾക്കൂടിയുള്ള പണി. അതും അപകടമാണെന്ന് നമ്മൾ പറയാറുണ്ട്. കാരണം ആ ജനാധിപത്യ പ്രക്രിയയുടെ ഏറ്റവും പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട ഒരു ഘടകമായ ആ വോട്ടിങ്ങിനെ നമ്മൾ അവമതിക്കാൻ തുടങ്ങിക്കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ പിന്നെ എങ്ങനെയാണ് ഇവിടെ ഒരു കാര്യം നമുക്ക് ട്രസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്യാൻ കഴിയുക? കാരണം ഇന്ന് നമ്മൾ വോട്ടിംഗ് മെഷീനെ പറയുന്നു, പക്ഷേ കാലങ്ങൾക്ക് മുന്നേ ബാലറ്റ് പേപ്പർ റിഗ് ചെയ്തു എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുള്ള കണക്കുകൾ വെച്ചിട്ട് ഇവിടെ അവകാശവാദം ഉന്നയിച്ച് നടന്നിട്ടുള്ള നാട്ടിലാണ് നമ്മൾ ജീവിക്കുന്നത്. അതിന് ശേഷമാണ് വോട്ടിംഗ് മെഷീൻ വരുന്നത്. ഇപ്പോൾ അതും പ്രശ്നം. പിന്നെന്താ വഴി? അപ്പോൾ ഒരു വഴിയില്ല. അപ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ തൽക്കാലം ഇന്നുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങൾ വെച്ച് അതിനെ പരമാവധി ഫുൾ പ്രൂഫ് ചെയ്ത് മുന്നോട്ട് പോകുക എന്നുള്ള രീതിയിൽ പോകുമ്പോൾ അതിനെയും അവമതിക്കുന്ന രീതിയിലേക്ക് ഇവിടുത്തെ പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട രാഷ്ട്രീയ പാർട്ടികൾ വരുമ്പോൾ അൾട്ടിമേറ്റ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് കെയോസാണ്. അത് ഔട്ട് ഓഫ് കൺട്രോൾ ആകും. അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് നമ്മൾ പറയുന്നത്, ജനാധിപത്യത്തെ നിങ്ങൾ വിശ്വസിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്, അത് വേണമെന്ന് നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ആഗ്രഹമുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ അത് വെറുതെ ഉണ്ടാകുന്ന സാധനമല്ല, അത് കാര്യമായിട്ട് പണിയെടുക്കേണ്ട ഒരു സാധനമാണ്. അതിൽ പ്രധാന ജോലി ജനങ്ങൾക്കാണ്, അത് വേറെ ആരുമല്ല. അതൊക്കെയാണ് എറിൻ ഇവിടെ പറഞ്ഞത്. നിങ്ങൾ ശ്രദ്ധിച്ചു കാണും. വി ആർ ഡൂയിങ് ഇറ്റ്, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നമ്മളാണ് ഡെമോക്രസിയിൽ അതിൻ്റെ എൻജിൻ പ്രവർത്തിപ്പിക്കുന്ന ആളുകൾ, അല്ലാതെ അന്യഗ്രഹ ജീവികളല്ല എന്നുള്ളത്. പിന്നെ ഇപ്പോൾ അവിടെ നടക്കുന്ന ഓരോ വിഷയം നിങ്ങളെടുത്ത് നോക്കുമ്പോൾ ആ എനിമിയായിട്ട് കണ്ടുകൊണ്ട് അവരെ ഇറക്കാൻ പറ്റാതെ വരുമ്പോൾ വെടിവെച്ച് കൊല്ലുക. അതിലെ ഭാഗമായിട്ടുള്ള ആളുകളെ ഇപ്പോൾ മൈനോറിറ്റീസിൻ്റെ നേർക്കുള്ള അറ്റാക്കിൻ്റെ ഒരു പ്രധാന കാരണം എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് അവർ കൂടുതലും സപ്പോർട്ട് ചെയ്തിരുന്നത് അവാമി ലീഗിനെയാണ്. അത് നമ്മളിവിടെ കാണണം. നമ്മളിവിടെ ഈ മുസ്ലിം ലീഗ് അതല്ലെങ്കിൽ അതുപോലുള്ള മത പാർട്ടികൾ ഉണ്ടാക്കിക്കൊണ്ട് ഐഡൻറ്റിറ്റി പൊളിറ്റിക്സ് വെച്ചിട്ട് അയ്യോ പാർലമെൻറ്റിൽ മുസ്ലിങ്ങളില്ലേ എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ആ നിലവിളി ഇവിടെ നടത്തുന്ന സമയത്ത് ബംഗ്ലാദേശിൽ നമ്മൾ കണ്ടത് ആ 8% അതിൽ താഴെയുള്ള ഹിന്ദുക്കൾ അവിടെയുള്ള ബഹുജന പാർട്ടികളുടെ ഭാഗമായി പ്രവർത്തിച്ച് അവർ നല്ലൊരു ശതമാനം ഈ പറയുന്ന പാർലമെൻറ്റിൽ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു എന്നതാണ് നമ്മൾ മനസ്സിലാക്കേണ്ടത്. അതാണ് നമ്മൾ ഇന്ത്യയിൽ മുസ്ലിങ്ങൾ ചെയ്യേണ്ടത്. അതിവിടെ നടക്കുന്നില്ല. ഇവിടെയുള്ള മെയിൻ സ്ട്രീം പാർട്ടികളിൽ കയറണം. അവിടെ നിങ്ങൾ അതിൻ്റെ ഭാഗമായിട്ട് പ്രവർത്തിക്കണം. അത് BJP ആയിക്കോട്ടെ, കമ്മ്യൂണിസ്റ്റ് പാർട്ടി ആയിക്കോട്ടെ, കോൺഗ്രസ് ആയിക്കോട്ടെ. അത് ചെയ്യുന്നതിന് പകരം മുസ്ലിം ലീഗ്, SDPI, വെൽഫെയർ പാർട്ടി അങ്ങനെ തിരിഞ്ഞ് അങ്ങോട്ടും ഇങ്ങോട്ടും നിന്നിട്ട് നിങ്ങൾ ഈ വോട്ട് ബാങ്ക് ഉണ്ടാക്കി അത് വെച്ച് നിങ്ങളെ കുരങ്ങ് കളിപ്പിക്കാനുള്ള വഴി മുസ്ലിങ്ങൾ തന്നെ ഉണ്ടാക്കി വെച്ച് എന്നിട്ട് അത് വെച്ചിട്ട് കാര്യങ്ങൾ ഇതുപോലെ കുട്ടിച്ചോറാക്കുന്ന അവസ്ഥയിലേക്ക് വരുമ്പോൾ അത് എന്താണ് ഉണ്ടാക്കുക? ഇതൊക്കെയാണ് നമ്മളിവിടെ ഇന്ന് നമ്മളുടെ ഫുഡ് ഫോർ തോട്ട് എന്നുള്ള രീതിയിൽ നമുക്ക് ഇതിൽ നിന്ന് എടുക്കാവുന്ന ടേക്ക് ഹോം മെസ്സേജസ്, അങ്ങനെ പല പല കാര്യങ്ങൾ. അതുപോലെ ഓരോ വിഷയവും നിങ്ങൾക്ക് രണ്ടാമത് കേൾക്കുമ്പോൾ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് പിടികിട്ടും. ഞാൻ ഇനി വീണ്ടും പറഞ്ഞത് ദീർഘിപ്പിക്കുന്നില്ല. അപ്പോൾ എന്തായാലും നമ്മൾ ഇവിടെ ഈ ലൈവ് ഇവിടെ അവസാനിപ്പിക്കുകയാണ്. വിഷയത്തിൻ്റെ പ്രാധാന്യം, ആ ഒരു പ്രാധാന്യത്തിൽ തന്നെ നിങ്ങൾ ഉൾക്കൊണ്ട് ബംഗ്ലാദേശിലെ വിഷയങ്ങളിൽ അതിനെക്കുറിച്ച് പറയുമ്പോൾ അവിടെ ഹിന്ദുക്കൾ മരിക്കുന്നത് കൊണ്ട് മാത്രമല്ല നമ്മൾ ഈ വിഷയം എടുക്കുന്നത്. അതും കൂടി നിങ്ങൾ ആലോചിക്കുക. എവിടെ യുദ്ധം നടന്നാലും എവിടെ അൺറസ്റ്റ് ഉണ്ടായാലും നമുക്കൊരു ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടുണ്ട്. അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് അഫ്ഗാനിസ്ഥാൻ്റെ വിഷയത്തിൽ നമുക്ക് ബുദ്ധിമുട്ട്. അതല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഓരോ വിഷയത്തിലും നമ്മൾ യുക്രൈൻ റഷ്യ വിഷയത്തിൽ നമുക്ക് ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടുണ്ടാകുന്നതിൻ്റെ കാര്യം അതാണ്. ബംഗ്ലാദേശിലുണ്ടാകുന്നതിൻ്റെ കാര്യം അത് പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് നമ്മൾ അയൽ രാജ്യമാകുമ്പോൾ അത് കൂടുതൽ ബുദ്ധിമുട്ട്. അത് നമ്മുടെയും ജീവനെ, നമ്മളുടെയും ലൈഫിനെ ബാധിക്കുന്ന ഒരു വിഷയം കൂടിയായിട്ട് അത് മാറാം. ഏത് രീതിയിൽ അത് സാമ്പത്തികമായിട്ടുള്ള പ്രശ്നങ്ങൾ ഇന്ത്യയിൽ ഉണ്ടാക്കിയാൽ അത് നമ്മളുടെ നാട്ടിൽ വിലക്കയറ്റമായിട്ടും അതുപോലെ പല വിഷയങ്ങളായിട്ട് അത് നമ്മളുടെ നിത്യ ജീവിതത്തെ തന്നെ ബാധിക്കുന്ന അവസ്ഥയിലേക്ക് വരും. അങ്ങനെ ഡയറക്റ്റ്ലി അത് നമ്മളെ ബാധിക്കാനിടയുള്ള ഒരു വിഷയം കൂടിയാണ്. അപ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ ആലോചിക്കുക, ഒരു മനുഷ്യൻ നേരിടുന്ന വിഷയം അത് നമ്മളുടെയും കൂടി ജീവനെ ബാധിക്കുന്ന അവസ്ഥയിലേക്കും കൂടി വരിക എന്ന് പറയുന്ന അവസ്ഥയിലേക്ക് വരുമ്പോൾ യുദ്ധങ്ങൾ പരമാവധി അവസാനിപ്പിക്കണം. അവിടെയാണ് നമ്മൾ പല ആളുകളും ഇപ്പോൾ TV ചർച്ചയിലൊക്കെ കണ്ടിട്ടുണ്ടാവും, ഇന്ത്യ ഇപ്പോൾ തന്നെ പോയി ബോംബിടണം ബംഗ്ലാദേശിൽ. ഇതൊക്കെയാണ് പല ആളുകളും പറഞ്ഞേക്കണം. അതൊന്നുമല്ല അതിൻ്റെ രീതി. ഇവിടെ എറിൻ വളരെ കൃത്യമായിട്ട് തന്നെയാണ് പറഞ്ഞത്. പരമാവധി ഡിപ്ലോമസി അതെടുക്കുക, അങ്ങേയറ്റം നെല്ലിപ്പലക. കാരണം ഇന്ത്യക്ക് അങ്ങനെ ഒരു ചരിത്രം ഇല്ല. വേറൊരു രാജ്യത്തെ പോയി പിടിച്ചടക്കിയ ഒരു ചരിത്രം ഇന്ത്യക്കില്ല. എന്നാൽ പാകിസ്ഥാൻ തമ്മിലുണ്ട്. ഈ ഈസ്റ്റ് പാകിസ്ഥാനും വെസ്റ്റ് പാകിസ്ഥാനും തമ്മിലുണ്ടായിട്ടുള്ള ആ റൈവൽറിയും അതുപോലെ തന്നെ ഈ ബംഗ്ലാദേശ് സ്വാതന്ത്ര്യം നേടിയത് ബ്രിട്ടീഷുകാരുടെ കയ്യിൽ നിന്നല്ല, അത് അപ്പുറത്തെ പാകിസ്ഥാൻ്റെ കയ്യിൽ നിന്നാണ് എന്നും കൂടി വരുന്നിടത്താണ് ഇതിൻ്റെയൊക്കെ തമാശകൾ നമ്മൾ മനസ്സിലാക്കേണ്ടത്. അങ്ങനെ കുറേ കാര്യങ്ങൾ തിരിച്ചറിയാനും പഠിക്കാനൊക്കെ ഉള്ള ഒരു അവസരം കൂടിയാണ്. നിങ്ങളത് ഉപയോഗിക്കുക. അതിനുള്ള വഴികൾ ഇവിടെ ഉണ്ട്. നമുക്ക് ഈ ചർച്ചകൾ ഇങ്ങനെ ഒരു ചെറിയ സ്പാർക്കായിട്ട് വെച്ച് തരാനേ പറ്റുള്ളൂ. എല്ലാം പറഞ്ഞ് ഇങ്ങനെ ക്ലാസ് സ്പൂൺ ഫീഡിങ് നമുക്ക് നടക്കില്ല. സോ നിങ്ങൾ ബാക്കിയുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങൾ അന്വേഷിച്ച് മനസ്സിലാക്കാൻ ശ്രമിക്കണം എന്നും കൂടി ഒന്ന് അഭ്യർത്ഥിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് തൽക്കാലം ഞാൻ ഈ ലൈവ് ഇവിടെ അവസാനിപ്പിക്കുകയാണ്. നമുക്ക് വളരെ വിശദമായിട്ടുള്ള മറ്റ് ലൈവ് കാര്യങ്ങളൊക്കെ അടുത്ത ദിവസം നമുക്ക് ചെയ്യാം. ഇന്ന് കുറേ യാത്രയൊക്കെ ഉണ്ടായതുകൊണ്ട് കൂടുതൽ ക്ഷീണവും ഒക്കെ ഉണ്ട്. അപ്പോൾ അതുകൊണ്ട് നമുക്ക് ഇന്നലത്തെ 8 മണിക്കൂർ ലൈവ് ആയിരുന്നു, അതിൻ്റെ ഉറക്കം കംപ്ലീറ്റ് ആയിട്ടില്ല. അപ്പോൾ അതുകൊണ്ട് നമുക്ക് വീണ്ടും കാണാം നാളെ മറ്റൊരു വിഷയവുമായിട്ട്. അപ്പോൾ അതുവരേക്കും എല്ലാവർക്കും നന്ദി, നമസ്കാരം, ഗുഡ് നൈറ്റ്. നമ്മളെ വീഡിയോ കണ്ടുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്ന ആളുകൾ ചാനൽ സബ്സ്ക്രൈബ് ചെയ്തിട്ടില്ല എന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ അത് ചെയ്ത് നമ്മളെ സപ്പോർട്ട് ചെയ്യുക. മറ്റു രീതിയിൽ സപ്പോർട്ട് ചെയ്യാൻ ആഗ്രഹിക്കുന്ന ആളുകൾക്ക് അതിൻ്റെ ഡീറ്റെയിൽസ് ഡിസ്ക്രിപ്ഷനിലുണ്ട്. നിങ്ങളുടെ ഓരോ ലൈക്കും ഷെയറും അതുപോലെ കമൻ്റ് ഇടുന്നതും ഈ വീഡിയോ അതിൻ്റെ താഴെ വരുന്ന കമൻറ്റുകൾക്ക് നിങ്ങൾ പ്രതികരിക്കുന്നതെല്ലാം തന്നെ വീഡിയോയുടെ റീച്ച് കൂടുന്നതിന് വലിയ തോതിൽ ഉപകാരപ്പെടുന്ന സംഗതിയാണ്. അപ്പോൾ അതുകൊണ്ട് അതിൽ നിങ്ങൾ ഏർപ്പെടണം എന്നും കൂടി ഞാൻ അഭ്യർത്ഥിക്കുകയാണ്. മറ്റുള്ള രീതിയിലുള്ള സപ്പോർട്ട് തുടർന്നും നിങ്ങളുടെ ഭാഗത്തുനിന്നുണ്ടാവും എന്ന് പ്രതീക്ഷിക്കുന്നു.